You know when you wake up at 3 a.m. and you can't go back to sleep? This never happened to me when I was young, but it happens several times a month now that I've hit middle age. A couple of weeks ago it happened, and as I was sitting in my chair at 4 a.m. thinking, I started thinking about all of the sleep hygiene principles or recommendations that I have given people throughout the years. And I started wondering to myself if I had ever really followed all of my own advice. So I decided right then that for 1 week, I was going to follow all of the advice that I give people when they're standing in front of me as their pharmacist asking for help with their sleep. And since I knew that the next week was going to be a little crazy and interrupted with some travel, I knew I needed to start that day if I wanted to get a week in. And so that's exactly what I did. And while I didn't expect it to be easy, parts of it were a lot more challenging than I thought it would be. So keep watching to find out where I succeeded, where I failed, and what took me by surprise. 40 to 60% of women in perimenopause and menopause have some kind of sleep disturbance during this season. And that's really not surprising because this is the time of life where hot flashes and night sweats enter the chat. But even beyond that, there is just a higher prevalence of insomnia in this age group. Now, there's a few different ways we classify insomnia. There's sleep onset insomnia, which is trouble falling asleep. There's sleep maintenance insomnia, which is when you wake up a lot during the night. And then there's early morning awakening, which is a different kind of insomnia. Sometimes that's referred to as terminal insomnia. I can understand why we don't often use that term since terminal kind of means fatal in most instances, but that just amuses me. Terminal insomnia is what I am dealing with at the moment. Now, technically, insomnia means it happens 3 times a week. I don't have it happen near that often, but it's often enough to be annoying, and it's something that I really wanted to try and fix. I first learned about sleep hygiene, or the first time I heard that word, was when I was in pharmacy school in my pharmacology class. Because believe it or not, one of the biggest parts of the pharmacist's job is helping people not take medication that they don't need. And so we learn all of the lifestyle interventions that people should try before they turn to medication. And sleep is one thing where you really want to try to fix it and not turn to medication. Yes, we have medications that help, and in some cases that might be what's needed, especially for a season if you really need to get rest. But overall, you're better off if you can make the lifestyle changes that can help you sleep better at night. And we all know that sleep is just essential to our health. Besides the fact that it helps us feel better, it improves our mood, there are a lot of health conditions that not sleeping well can make worse. So the first thing I did was I made a list of all the sleep hygiene recommendations I would give to you if you were standing in front of me as your pharmacist saying, what do I need to do to get better sleep? And a few of those things I was already doing pretty well. I already have a consistent bedtime and wake up time. I already have a very good wind down routine. It's made a lot easier since my kids are grown and I don't have to get anybody to bed. Once I get the supper dishes cleaned up and get my shower, I'm pretty much done for the night. So I already had the wind down routine done. I really don't drink alcohol other than maybe a couple times a year, so that wasn't a problem. And I don't drink caffeine other than my morning coffee. So they say to avoid caffeine intake after noon. I avoid caffeine intake after about 7 o'clock in the morning. So that was already good. Now, a few things I needed to work on. I am not very good at stopping screens an hour before bedtime. I'm on my phone too late, and also I have a Kindle that I read every night before I go to bed. And even though the Kindle Paperwhite, like what I have, does not emit as much blue light as a tablet does, it counts. So for completeness sake, I was going to eliminate that too. I'm also not the best at getting enough sunlight during the day, especially in the morning. I work from home, so I tend to just finish my morning routine, finish my coffee, and then walk right up to my office and get to work. I'm also not very good at moving around during the day. This has nothing to do with my employers. I work with great people. They do not expect me to sit at my desk hunched over and never get up and take a break. That's just something I tend to do without thinking about it. And then a couple of things that I'm just okay at. I do need some improvement. I probably could do a little bit better with exercise. I tend to exercise every weekend and I get a good hour in on Saturday and Sunday where I at least go on a walk. I am not very good at getting exercise in during the week. It's better if you can kind of divide it up and get 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but you should at least go out on a walk most days. I don't do that. Because this was such a spur of the moment thing, I didn't really have a lot of time to plan. So that's why if you're watching the video, you're going to see a pile of clothes in the back of my car because I'd planned to go to the donation center and hadn't gotten that done yet. Because when I started out, I wasn't sure how much of my diet and my exercise I was going to cover, I ended up taking some videos that I didn't use. Not really sure how much of the diet is going to come into this challenge. I don't want to get crazy. There's only so many things I can do. As it turned out, it was not that exciting following my diet for a week. There are only so many times I can make a video of myself making yogurt and just keep it interesting and fresh. And then one of the biggest challenges I faced during the week was the heat. So hot. It's like 96 degrees. It's September. It should not be 96 anymore because it's hot. It was very hot. As it's a little cooler today, I don't know why I'm giving you all the weather report every morning. I did decide to track my sleep using my smart ring, which you can see here. I don't typically wear it, so I don't have any data for the weeks leading up to when I decided to do the challenge. And in the end, I decided not really to make this challenge about my sleep per se, but just how well I did taking my own advice. Because like I said earlier, I don't fit the definition of insomnia. And following one person for a week really just tells you how that one person did for a week. I decided to make it more about me following my own advice and seeing how I did. So here's what I did. Every morning before work for 10 minutes, I would go outside and walk in the sunlight. And I also had a timer set off on my phone to go off every hour. So every hour I would stand up, do some squats, maybe walk downstairs or walk around my upstairs just to stretch and get moving for just a couple minutes every hour. And like I already mentioned, no screens an hour before bed. I had to be really disciplined on putting my phone down and not picking it up. And as hard as it was, and as much as it kind of broke my heart a little bit for the week, the Kindle went in the drawer. One thing that went really well was walking for 10 minutes before work. I really did have to plan and be disciplined about getting myself out there. If I wasn't careful, I could catch myself falling into the trap of thinking of, oh, one more thing I'm going to do, and I had to get myself out there or else the entire morning was going to just fly away and it would be time for me to work. But I did make it out there, even though a couple mornings I was cutting it pretty close to be at my desk. I did hit some snags though. Well, it's Friday morning and we've hit a bit of a snag. Honestly, the way the weather is in the Midwest, it's amazing that today's the first day that weather really interfered. So while there's a chance it might stop raining for me to get out and walk before I have to be at work, I'm not counting on it. But plan B, I can at least sit outside, get a little bit of sunlight, even though it is kind of cloudy. I'm still getting fresh air, and it's actually pretty nice today. It's got that new rain smell, which is really refreshing. So I'm gonna just enjoy the morning. But overall, I had a lot of fun with this challenge, and I had a lot of fun making this video. And if you're liking this video, would you consider liking it? It helps other women find my channel. Now, even though I decided pretty early on not to make this video about how I slept, I do have to say I slept pretty good all week. I still woke up every morning around the 3 a.m. mark, but according to my ring, I was only awake for a couple minutes. And as I recall, I always did go back to sleep. Now, one thing that surprised me is how much I enjoyed that 10-minute walk in the morning. It was just a good start to the day. I enjoy walking and I walk for exercise, but I think I had made it a little too much about exercise sometimes. I tend to wear a weighted vest and I'm looking at my time. I want to keep my pace at a certain level, and all of those are good things, but sometimes we just need time to enjoy creation, enjoy nature, and that was just a low pressure time, and it was a good start to my day. And another thing that I don't know if I noticed a big difference personally, but it's just a good habit, and it wasn't that hard once I got used to it, was just getting up and moving around every hour. There's really no excuse for the fact that I sit hunched at my desk for hours at a time. It was good to stretch, it was good to move, and I just know that's better for me. And it didn't really cost me any time. It was pretty easy for me to do. But the one thing that really surprised me was just my attitude at the end of the week. And I really think that has to do with getting outside and walking for 10 minutes before work. I love my job, but when I get to Friday afternoon, I am ready for the weekend and I'm pretty tired. And I sometimes feel like 5 o'clock on Friday, I am just like the marathon runner crawling across the finish line. I really didn't feel that way this week. It was kind of a hard week, but I felt like overall my attitude was better than it normally would have been when I consider just some of the challenges I faced during work. I really think the morning walk is what made such a difference in my overall attitude and mental state. So that's another reason I am going to keep it. Sleep difficulties are a big problem for women in middle age. And like I said, a lot of the problem is hot flashes and night sweats. In an upcoming video, I'm going to cover some of the medications that can be used for hot flashes and night sweats, and I'm going to link it above. But until that's ready, I have another video on some of just the physical changes that occur because of the hormonal shifts in menopause and perimenopause and how that can affect things like our moods.